Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome, Bruins. Awesome to have a lot of Bruins all together, especially out in Orange County. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Just to introduce myself, my name is Gloria Koch, Director of Young Alumni and Student Engagement at UCLA Alumni Affairs. And I want to thank you and welcome you to our first regional event out in Orange County, away from campus, so really out here with all of you on the art of managing up. And so thank you so much for being here. You're probably wondering, what is Young Alumni Engagement? What does that mean? Well, in June, we actually began this process of realizing, you know what, UCLA does not do enough for young alumni. Well, what does young alumni mean? For us, it really means people 0 to 10 years out, or even 40% of our alumni are under 40. And so really it's serving these different populations, whether you graduated in 2013 or you graduated in 2003, really it's just serving our alumni and providing support and resources for you in where your life is now. And so that is our goal. And this event is actually one of our first events out here away from campus, but really to be with our alumni. So thank you for being here. We actually did a bunch of interviews as we were beginning our process in New York, San Francisco, LA, and Orange County, really asking people what are they interested in learning about, what are topics that they're interested in. And actually this idea and concept of managing up bubbled up to the top, and so we wanted to provide an opportunity to have our alumni share about their experiences, to share with you about what that means with them. And so just on a broader level, what does the concept of managing up mean? It actually is, managing up is a method of career development where you are developing a mutually beneficial relationship for you and your boss. However, our panelists today will talk more about that and what does managing up really mean to them. So we actually will have them share with us a little bit about what that is, and also you all can share with us as well. So actually I'm going to do a quick poll here just for people who are here in the room today. Who here is in their first job after college? You can raise your hand really quick. Awesome. Great. Second job out of college. Great. Awesome. Third and beyond? Great. Awesome. So it's a good mix, right, of young alumni and also where you are in your career. So when you're signing up today for this panel, I just wanted to also gauge what are you interested in kind of learning more about today. So were you interested, if anyone was interested on finding tips on how to get a raise or promotion? Anyone interested in that or really wanted to know about that? Okay. And also, is anyone here interested in learning more about dealing with a difficult boss, supervisor, superior? Great. And then also just generally finding ways to communicate with those in your organization to share your value or to express that. Is anyone interested in that? Okay. Great. Well, thank you. So this will help us kind of guide our conversations today about that and provide you more tools as well.
Can I add one?
Sure.
Like the top 3 ways to utilize the Bruin network, Bruin Alumni Network.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Website or LinkedIn or whatever.
Great, great. Awesome. Thank you. And also we will have a portion at the end of the panel as well for questions. So if you do have questions that kind of bubble up to the surface for any one of our panelists or just for the group in general, feel free to write it down and we will have an opportunity to give you the floor and ask a couple questions. Okay? So, you know what? Really the star and the highlight of our panel today is all of our different alumni who are here today. So I want to actually turn it over to them if they could just introduce themselves and give us a brief description of their career path and how they got to where they are today. So we'll start right here.
Okay, clearly I have been the alumni the longest in this room. I also had a problem making up my mind because I have 3 degrees from UCLA. I have an undergraduate degree, I have a master's degree in English literature, and then I decided I was actually going to have to go find a job, and I got a law degree. And interestingly enough, and I don't know if it's a generation thing or a timing thing, I am in the company that I started at right out of law school, and I never left. My job has changed, but the company is still the same. Right now I am the Senior Vice President of Public Affairs for the Automobile Club of Southern California, and I'm going to guess a lot of you are probably members. I joined as an attorney. I spent about 12 years in the corporate legal division, and then I moved over to public affairs. And I moved over a few years before the Auto Club expanded hugely. We are no longer just in Southern California. We are in 22 states in motor club operations and about the same number of states in insurance operations. And it has been a fantastic growth opportunity for both me and the Auto Club. So that's pretty much sort of my career path. It's been a matter of hard work. It's been a matter of taking opportunity, and there's always a bit of luck thrown in. So we can talk about each of those, but anyway, that's who I am, and I'm going to let D'Artagnan tell you about himself.
Well, I'm D'Artagnan. Good evening, everyone. Seriously. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I am a proud Bruin, double Bruin. Went to UCLA in '98, and shortly in, about 3 years in, left and went and joined the military. So I served in the U.S. Navy, went around the world, was deployed to Iraq, and came back to finish my degree at UCLA, while I worked on the second degree in business management at National University. Was subsequently appointed to serve on the Board of Regents, so I was a UC student regent, and organized quite a bit within the UC system around student-initiated access, and a number of issues related to students of color. And that work led to my appointment on the Board of Regents, while I also pursued a PhD in education at grad school, focused specifically on researching issues in literacy and learning for boys and men of color. It was through all of this work and through these experiences that I came to found my nonprofit organization, the Social Justice Learning Institute, based in Inglewood, where we are working to close both educational and health disparities for our community members and residents. Really excited to be here with all of you today. I'm very happy to talk about managing up, especially from the perspective of someone who has been in an organization where you have to know how to manage up.
Is that the military?
That's the military.
I was like,
yeah.
I'm waiting for that one. I don't even want to know how you do that in the military. So, hi, I'm Eve Waldman, and graduated UCLA in '96 with political science, and then did a master's in social work from University of Michigan, and I do neither of those now. I'm a director of human resources for Mattel, so we make lots of children's products like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Fisher-Price, American Girl, Thomas the Train, the list goes on and on, so some really great products. I've been in human resources my entire career and have maybe a unique perspective too, because a lot of what I do is provide advice and guidance for people as they're navigating their career, whether it's dealing with a difficult boss, whether it's trying to figure out how do I make a side step and go left instead of straight, or is it time to exit? So I look forward to sharing that experience with you all.
All right, hi, my name is Carlos Collard, and I am the first person in my family to go to college. I came from a little town called Yucca Valley out in the desert, the true desert. This is a real desert, not Palm Springs, but think of like the Roadrunner and the Coyote, like that kind of desert. Well, with that to say, I majored in communications and political science while I was there, and got into advertising after school, or after graduating, as part of the UCLA advertising team, so that helped me get to that point. And I also started a small business with a friend of mine focusing on doing advertising work for small businesses. Well, that didn't go too well. So I then transitioned into the public sector, working for a city government. And I've worked within the areas of transportation, urban planning, finance, a lot of different areas in terms of local government. And I currently work for the city of Santa Monica, overseeing the promenade, the beach, all the parks there. So all the fun stuff, hopefully, but also the stuff that gets a lot of complaints, like, I saw a little piece of trash over there on the beach. Oh, sorry, you know, but
You can help pick it up.
But yeah, good idea. Yeah, managing up, I've had to do a lot of that myself, in addition to kind of unique networking. I can get into that later, and how I got some of my professional opportunities, but also opportunities beyond my career. And I supervise employees, so I help them manage up, or to manage me, I guess you could say. So I'd love to talk about that too.
Excellent. Well, okay, I have to start with everyone got to put their hands in the air, and we're going to give an 8 clap, because we can't be at a UCLA event without it. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, UCLA.
Five. Yes!
So probably comes as no surprise, I was on the spirit squad when I was at UCLA on the dance team. I graduated UCLA in 2002. Went into a career very quickly, 2 days after I graduated. Didn't take that time off, which I really wish I would have, but at Fox Sports, and was there for about 7.5 years, moving from cable television to network television, navigating my way around there, which I do attribute to managing up, which was really exciting when I heard about this panel and what we were going to be speaking about. Finished my career at Fox as the director of sports for the network, handling MLB on Fox and NFL on Fox, and hit a point in my career where I felt like it was a job. And I said, that's not enough for me. I wanted a career. I wanted something bigger for myself. And I got an opportunity, so I took a job for a startup where I could start from scratch in marketing and build everything. And in addition to that, get my MBA. I went in the executive MBA program at Pepperdine University, graduated there in 2009, and worked in the wireless space for about 4.5 years. And then had that aha moment of, wait, I want to work for myself. And left that job and started my own company. And so I've had my own company now for 2 years, and we consult in everything from, it's really business development. It's sales, marketing, business development. So working in wireless, I do consult for the golf apparel company, which is actually an ex-UCLA All-American golfer from UCLA who started a clothing apparel line. And I also work with some car dealerships, and then wireless is kind of where I'm at right now, consulting-wise. So loving it, and it's great. It's been a really incredible journey, but it's definitely been, managing up has been a big part of it. And even now, owning your own company, it still never ends, I'll be honest. There's still, which we'll talk about tonight, other ways that you're still managing up constantly. But thank you for having me. I look forward to speaking with all of you tonight.
Well, thank you, everyone. So why don't we actually jump in begin by sharing your own definition of managing up. I know we're throwing around this phrase, right, managing up. So to each of you, how do you define this concept or idea? Anyone can begin.
Okay, well, I will start. And I actually had a bit of trouble with the concept of managing up, because I think managing is more of a 360-degree kind of effort. And starting with managing yourself, as well as managing the people who might work for you, the people who work with you, and the people that you work for. And you can manage projects as well as people. So I think it's more, for me, it's more of an approach to how you manage your job, you manage your reactions, you manage all of that. So I think I'm going to leave it at that in terms of a definition. I think it encompasses all aspects of what you do and how you work. And I realize that's not super helpful, but I think we can get into more of the detail as we kind of go into some of the other questions.
Thank you. So I think in addition to the definition that's been provided already, this idea of working for mutual benefit for your boss, being indispensable, being a valuable asset, understanding all of these things. Managing up, in many ways, is about learning how and when to push your boundaries. And so what I've learned, especially I think as Carlos talked about what it meant to manage me, right, as a boss, as a supervisor, what I've learned is that managing up is specifically about knowing how to support the work product that needs to come out at the end of the day, and making sure that you or I or we are not overstepping the boundaries that have been established in the roles we must take on. And so that's one of the, I think, approaches, or rather one of the important considerations of managing up.
he's so articulate and so hard to follow. So I think, when I think about managing up so I'm in a very corporate environment, and to me managing up is being able to articulate to your boss how you want to be treated, how you expect them to treat others and yourself, and it's really around expectation setting in a way that doesn't say, here's what I expect of you, and here's what you should expect of me. So that's how I define managing up.
These are all great answers. And I feel like my original answer is like pieces of all of these, but so I'm not going to state that. I'll just state, because I want to add value and not repeat, but that's part of managing up, actually. No. But what I would add is, you gotta go back to, and not just because I can say, look, I'm using my communications degree at work, here I am. But a lot of it is how you communicate. If you want to talk about a skill in managing up, I mean, we probably might get into this question, but how I help define it with like the employees I supervise is I help them learn about me, what I expect, how I expect them to think, how I expect them to push themselves, but then I leave it open to how do you work, what's your personality. A lot of it boils down to learning that relationship. So I would define it as communication and relationships. If you want to just take it down to simple concepts.
Excellent. Compared to everyone, mine's a little bit different. To me, managing up is very much finding out who you are and how you fit into the company and the company's goals, in addition to how do you work with your upper management or the people that you're working with. Very much so, my fact is that every person brings something to the table, and to me, managing up through my career wasn't just being a chameleon and joining that team so that that team can succeed. It was really very much figuring out what do I bring to the table, then navigating how to best bring your best assets to that table and making those known to those above you or those that you're working with. So it was very much that concept of being authentic, being who you are, but finding out how you fit into this bigger organization and that big picture, and how you communicate that and build that with your direct reports. Build up, and I would bring not just your above you when you're managing up. Even though we say up, it's not necessarily just the person you report to. It's also those who are equal to you and those below you, in my opinion.
A lot of you talk about the concept of articulating and communicating your value, or what you bring as an asset. So can you share with us the first job, first experience, where you had to do that, where you had to communicate your value and articulate that? How did that transpire? Can help give us a little bit of guidance for ourselves.
I'll take it. I've got a funny one here. My experience obviously is a little different, being in entertainment and being a woman in sports. Not really, back in 2002, the easiest waters to navigate, just coming out of college, right? I walked into a very male-dominated environment. Sports, right? Innately we stereotype and then know more about sports than women. So it was a tough road for me the first year, because it was very much, I was stereotyped that I didn't know what I was doing or that I didn't understand sports. So for that's where managing up started really early for me, and I realized I was an asset. I come from a big baseball athletic background family, and so I decided to kind of figure out a way that I can show I knew what I was doing in a very productive manner. So very early on, what I started to do was I put myself together a calendar of knowing what every sporting event there was. Back in the day, right, not that long ago, but back in 2002, there wasn't all these things, these apps and these neat devices that you can have now that notify you of what's going on. I had to create my own, but if I had one, gosh, it'd be a lot easier now. And so I was always one step ahead, right? Because a lot of these guys relied on the fact that they were athletic-minded, and so they watched SportsCenter at night, but they didn't know all the details. Like, they didn't know when things were, where they were happening, where NASCAR event was happening 2 years down the road. So as I got into meetings, I was able to have that information that no one else had. I became like the little brainiac of sports versus the sports fan. And it made a big difference, especially when I was in on-air promotions, the commercials at the time, and we had a commercial going to air the next day, and some of you, if you're Angels fans, would know, but Troy Goss, who also went to UCLA, got injured that night, and we sat in a meeting that next morning, and they were showing us all the commercials that would air that evening, boom, boom, and I just raised my hand and said, we can't air that commercial. And everyone looked at me like, shh, be quiet, little girl, like, you just started here, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, he got injured last night, 8th inning, boom, and I gave him the stats. And I'll tell you from that point forward, like, my relationship with these guys very much drastically changed. And I realized it was a lot of managing up and owning the situation, but being who I was. I didn't have to be the brainiac, you know, I mean, I was the brainiac of sports. I didn't have to be the sports fan like they all were trying to be.
Okay, story I thought of, so I talked about that transition I made from one industry to another, so moving from advertising to government. Let's see, well, I'll just touch on this because I think this is important, and it does touch on a lot of things that you will have to do, or hopefully you will implement at some point in your life. How I made that leap was I emailed CEOs of companies, and I said, you don't know who I am, I don't know who you are, but I'd like to meet with you and learn about your leadership and your career path. And all of them opened up the doors to me. I was just coming in off the street, and this was, LinkedIn did not exist. I was looking up the names of people online, looking up their email template that they use for their company, plugging in like the first initial last name, whatever that template was, and letting it go. But I was leveraging the fact that I was a young alumni. I had just graduated. I think people sympathize with that. So point one, leverage that while you still have it. But the UCLA alumni name will always take you places, and you can always leverage that. But I think it was especially crucial then, as you know, when I was doing that kind of guerrilla networking, I guess you can call it. But so how did this relate to the question? An opportunity came about by me doing that. One of these agencies, City of Santa Monica, said, hey, we don't have a job opening, but we want you to come in and create a job for yourself. You're not going to have any benefits. You're going to be a temporary employee. We want to see what kind of value you bring to the organization, and we'll decide if we keep you or not. Do you want to take this risk? And I said, yeah, let's do it. And I got in there, and I'm sure a lot of our panelists here would touch on these things as well, but I did not only whatever they asked me to do, I went and beyond. I sought problems. I sought areas of weakness in the company. I volunteered to work across different areas. You know, if I could, I always threw my name into the hat, I guess you can say. And I got to learn a lot about the company very fast. I got to learn about operations, customer service, planning, whatever, finance, all of these things very quickly. And so when I got invited to meetings, I was kind of like the one who helped the executive director kind of piece all these pieces together, because I did have knowledge of all of them, or you know, and ground level knowledge, which is very important. So it's very important to me as a manager, like talking to including employees now who are, you know, at the entry level or whatever, because all of that's very valuable. But the other key point I would say from that story is